Hi all, we're about to go on a little journey together, a gentle float above one of the prettiest spots on the planet. We're heading to the southern tip of Vancouver Island in Canada, to a city called Victoria. It's a place that feels like it's been plucked right out of a storybook, full of old-world charm and surrounded by the most incredible natural beauty. All right, here we go. Imagine that gentle lift, that feeling of weightlessness as we begin to climb. We're rising slowly, steadily up into the big open sky. Below us, the world starts to transform. Individual cars become a slow-moving stream of color. People on the footpaths shrink to tiny, moving dots, each on their own little mission. The city's sounds blend into a single, distant murmur, like the gentle hum of a seashell held to your ear. It's a peaceful transition. We're not blasting off like a rocket. We're floating up like a feather caught in a warm updraft. The air up here feels fresh and clean, carrying the faint, salty scent of the nearby Pacific Ocean. As we gain a bit more height, the city's layout starts to reveal itself. It's like watching a magnificent puzzle come together. You can see the distinct shapes of the neighborhoods, the winding roads, and the sharp, clean lines of the commercial districts. It's a view that gives you a real sense of place. You can trace the journey of a ferry as it glides out of the harbor, leaving a perfect white wake behind it on the dark blue water. Let's gently pivot our view. Just next to the harbor, you can't miss that magnificent stone building with the big dome on top. That, my friends, is the Parliament Buildings of British Columbia. From the air, it's an absolute showstopper. It looks less like a government building and more like a grand European palace that was magically transported to the Canadian coast. Its stone facade, intricate carvings, and the verdigris green of its copper domes stand out in stunning detail against the blue of the sky and the water. At night, they outline the entire building in thousands of tiny light bulbs, making it glow like a magnificent gingerbread house. It's a truly breathtaking sight. This grand structure was designed by a young architect named Francis Rattenbury, who was only 25 when he won the competition to build it back in the 1890s. What a gig for a young fella. He wanted to create something that would symbolize the province's stability and prosperity, and he certainly succeeded. From up here, we can appreciate the sheer scale and symmetry of his design. The sprawling lawns in front of it are a perfect manicured green, often hosting festivals and celebrations. The central dome is topped by a golden statue of Captain George Vancouver, the British naval officer who explored this coastline in the late 1700s. He stands watch over the city, a golden sentinel against the sky. All right, let's drift away from the stone and grandeur of downtown and head towards a vast expanse of green. Just a short glide south of the inner harbor, the city gives way to the incredible Beacon Hill Park. From our aerial viewpoint, it's a stunning patchwork quilt of nature's best work. You can see the deep greens of the forest groves, the bright, manicured lawns of the gardens, and the sparkling blues of the ponds and lakes scattered throughout. It's a massive 200-acre oasis right on the edge of the city, a place where nature is allowed to truly shine. We can see winding pathways snaking through the trees, inviting people to wander and explore. This park is more than just a pretty space. It has a deep cultural history. For thousands of years, it was an important site for the Lekwungen people, the First Nations of this land. From our high vantage point, we can see a tall, slender pole rising from the trees. That's the Story Pole, one of the world's tallest freestanding totem poles, carved to tell the stories of the local indigenous culture. The park itself was established in 1882, with the condition that it be maintained for the use and enjoyment of the public, a promise that has been wonderfully kept. Let's hover over the central part of the park. See those magnificent weeping willows dipping their branches into the ponds, and the little stone bridges that arc over the water. That's the heart of the park's more manicured section. We might even be able to spot the park's famous peacocks, strutting around like they own the place. They look like tiny, iridescent blue jewels moving across the green grass from up here. As we drift towards the southern edge of the park, the landscape changes again. The manicured gardens give way to a wilder, more rugged coastline. This is where the park meets the vast expanse of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Now let's follow that coastline as it winds its way east from Beacon Hill Park. We are now drifting over the Salish Sea, looking back at the edge of the city. The view from here is absolutely spectacular. Below us, the water is a mesmerizing mix of deep blues and bright aquamarines, changing color where the sunlight hits the shallower spots. You can see the dark, rugged shapes of the rocks just beneath the surface, and the gentle swell of the Pacific waves rolling towards the shore. The coastline itself is a masterpiece of natural art, a jagged and beautiful line separating the solid land from the endless water. It's a powerful, humbling sight. We're floating along what the locals call Dallas Road. It's a famous scenic drive, but from our perspective, it's a thin ribbon of gray separating the green of the land from the blue of the sea. We can see people walking their dogs along the waterfront path, looking like tiny figures on a grand adventure. There are beaches tucked into the coves below, some sandy, some covered in smooth gray pebbles. We can see driftwood logs washed ashore, scattered like giant matchsticks along the high tide line. This coastline is constantly changing, shaped by the relentless power of the ocean tides and the winter storms. It's a dynamic, living edge of the continent. Look out towards the horizon. On a clear day like today, you can see the majestic Olympic Mountains rising up across the strait in Washington State, USA. Their jagged, snow-capped peaks form a stunning backdrop to the entire scene. It feels like you can almost reach out and touch them. Seeing those mountains reminds you that Victoria, while it feels like a cozy little world of its own, is part of a much larger, wilder landscape. This body of water is a superhighway for all sorts of marine life. Let's pull back from the coast a little and glide over the city's residential areas. From up here, Victoria's neighborhoods look like a wonderful, sprawling mosaic. It's not a city of endless, identical suburbs. Instead, we see a rich tapestry of different styles and eras. There are the grand, historic homes of Rockland, with their sprawling gardens and old stone walls, looking like mini castles hidden amongst the trees. Then there are the charming, colorful houses of James Bay and Fairfield, with their neat little gardens and front porches. Each neighborhood has its own unique character, its own distinct feel, which is remarkably clear even from the sky. What's truly striking from this perspective is just how green the city is. It's not called the Garden City for nothing. Nearly every house seems to be surrounded by trees, shrubs, and colorful flower beds. The streets are lined with massive canopies of oak, maple, and arbutus trees, their branches creating green tunnels over the roads below. In the spring, the city explodes with the pink and white of cherry and plum blossoms. From the air, it must look like the whole city is covered in confetti. This commitment to green space makes the entire urban area feel less like a city and more like a collection of villages nestled in a giant park. We can see the evidence of Victoria's British heritage in the layout of some of the older neighborhoods. The winding streets, the little cul-de-sacs, and the abundance of Tudor-style architecture give it a distinctly English feel. It's a legacy from the city's colonial past, a time when the settlers tried to recreate a piece of home in this new, wild land. But it's blended with a unique West Coast style. You'll see a classic Edwardian house right next to a modern glass-walled structure, and somehow it all just works together. It's a city that respects its history without being trapped by it, and you can see that story written in its streets. As we float higher, the individual houses and streets begin to merge into a larger pattern. We can see the community hubs, the local parks where kids are playing, the school fields, the small shopping villages that serve each neighborhood. Let's make our way back towards the inner harbor for a closer look at its other crown jewel. Sitting directly opposite the Parliament buildings is the grand old dame herself, the Fairmont Empress Hotel. What a magnificent sight. Covered in ivy that changes color with the seasons, she sits there with such grace and elegance, like a queen watching over her subjects. From our aerial perch, we can fully appreciate her chateau-style architecture, with her steep pitched roofs, ornate dormer windows, and stately brick facade. She commands the waterfront, a symbol of timeless luxury and a cornerstone of Victoria's identity for over a century. The Empress was another one of Francis Rattenbury's creations, built by the Canadian Pacific Railway to cater to wealthy tourists arriving on their steamships. It opened its doors in 1908 and quickly became the place to see and be seen. Kings, queens, movie stars, they've all stayed here and enjoyed its famous afternoon tea. From above, we can see the lush gardens behind the hotel and the beautiful veranda that looks out over the harbor. You can just imagine the glamorous guests of a bygone era, strolling the grounds and taking in the very same view of the water that we are enjoying now, just from a different angle. The hotel is so much more than just a place to stay. It's a living museum. It holds the stories and secrets of the city within its walls. They say it's even home to a few friendly ghosts, including one of Rattenbury himself, who apparently wanders the halls. From our safe and peaceful spot in the sky, we can just appreciate its beauty without worrying about any spooky encounters. Its presence, along with the Parliament buildings, is what gives the inner harbor its unique, regal character. Our 10 minutes of calm are nearly up, and it's time to begin our gentle descent back to the real world. But before we go, let's take one last long, lingering look from this incredible vantage point. Let's pull back and see the whole picture one more time. There's the city, nestled perfectly between the green hills and the deep blue sea. We can see the inner harbor, a sparkling jewel at its center, with the Grand Empress and the stately Parliament buildings standing guard. We can see the vast green expanse of Beacon Hill Park and the rugged coastline stretching out towards the horizon. It's a perfect composition. What we take away from this journey is a feeling of profound peace. Victoria, from above, is the very definition of tranquility. It's a city that has found a beautiful balance, a balance between the old and the new, between its proud history and its vibrant present. It's found a balance between the energy of a capital city and the relaxed pace of island life. And most importantly, it's found a balance between the human world and the natural world. The trees, the parks, the ocean, they aren't just add-ons, they are essential parts of the city's soul. It's a place that calms the spirit. As we slowly drift back down, the sounds of the city will gradually return. The distant hum will resolve back into the sounds of traffic, voices, and life being lived. But hopefully, we can carry a little piece of this aerial calm with us. Remember the feeling of floating, of seeing the world from a place of quiet observation. Remember the beauty of the light on the water, the deep green of the parks, and the elegant lines of the historic buildings. This is the magic of Victoria. It's a charm that gets under your skin and stays with you long after you've left. So take one last deep breath of that clean, sky-high air. Let the peaceful image of this beautiful city settle in your mind. It's a reminder that even in our busy world, there are places of incredible peace and beauty waiting to be discovered. Sometimes all it takes is changing your perspective. Thanks for joining me on this little float above Victoria. I hope you're feeling rested, relaxed, and maybe just a little bit enchanted. Until next time, take it easy and be good to yourselves. Cheers, mate.